Hello and welcome to a very worsick edition of The Best Worst, a celebration of the best and the worst of the television we love.
Hi, I'm Meg Bashburner, and I'm light to medium sick.
And I'm Joseph Fink, and I'm probably light to medium too. I don't feel great. And what do we love?
We love television, you guys, because what's better than when you're sick than some TV?
Yeah, for instance, we watched the Olympics in bed, and it was nice.
So we created this podcast, to explore what we all love about popular TV shows by watching both the IMDb viewer best rated and worst rated episodes of a quintessential series.
Because we want to, that's why. Each of these shows on this podcast must adhere to a set of rules. Each show must have at least 100 episodes or follow HBO rules where it has 50. Or, I don't know, we might just do other shows just because why not? And we generally exclude premieres and finales because we're looking for the show at its best, not at its, biggest and cliffhangerist and most celebrities. Let's get to today's show.
Today's show is The Golden Girls, which ran for 7 seasons from 1985 to 1992 with 180 episodes.
Tell me about your experience going into The Golden Girls.
I mean, this TV show is almost exactly as old as we are. So we never lived in a world where the Golden Girls didn't. I watched it when it was on, when I became sentient. I remember watching it on Saturday nights. I remember the Saturday night lineup eventually that was Empty Nest and Nurses and Golden Girls. I watched it in reruns. And then, of course, The Golden Girls is incredibly iconic as far as TV goes. So it's referenced a ton. People talk about it a lot. I named my first car B. Arthur because it was old and gold. So, yeah. So I loved it. I loved The Golden Girls, which we will talk about what we think about when we rewatch it. But what was your experience with The Golden Girls?
I had heard of it. As you know, my family did not watch a tremendous amount of television, so Golden Girls was never on. I had never seen an episode. I feel like I didn't really become aware of it until there was a period in the early 2010s, I want to say, where there was a real resurgence in appreciation for the Golden Girls. People started talking about Golden Girls. There was those... what do you call those figurines that are kind of bubbly and
little people? We have those, which is why you are thinking about them.
No, Funko Pops. I think there was Golden Girl Funko Pops.
We have the little people Golden Girls.
You know, we were involved in the Neo-Futurists at the time, and people would do plays about the Golden Girls. It just felt kind of out of nowhere in the 2010s. People remembered oh yeah, I used to watch this show when I was 7 and I really liked it, and they kind of started talking about it again.
Betty White resurgence.
Oh, that might be related.
And it was I think the people mostly attached to her performance in Golden Girls, although Betty White has had a TV career basically since TV has existed. So,
yeah, I mean, I was very aware of her and I had never seen Golden Girls.
Yeah, but I guess it's her most iconic role, what she's most known for. It's what they're all sort of most known for, which is interesting because they all had massive careers. But yeah.
Yeah, so I'd say going in, I expected it to be good because it seems like people really love it. But I'm always a little nervous with sitcoms because sitcoms often don't hold up great. But...
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll talk about this when we get to it. But yeah, I was a little disappointed in the rewatch of it. And it could be because of the episodes we got. There's definitely stuff I loved for sure. I absolutely love the performances. I love just the general idea of hey, let's put 4 women on a set and have them do a show with little to other people, which is great. I think, and have these women be over the age of 50 or then their characters are supposed to be over the age of 60, which is really...
And all but one of them was over the age of 60 in real life.
And I mean, I don't think we've seen that since.
Yeah, I mean, other than, as we talked about, Ryan Murphy.
Yeah.
But Susan Harris, in general, created the show, had a real drive to put older women, but just older people in general on TV from her very first show, which we'll talk about when we get into. She wrote the worst episode. We have a rare situation where the creator of the show wrote the worst episode, so we can talk about her bio. But kind of all of the shows she created were looking at people past the age of 40 and often older than that. And this was even when she was in her early 30s. So this wasn't drawing from a personal experience. She just was, I think, really interested in kind of the second half of people's lives.
Yeah. It was a novelty at the time. It was something that one of the vice presidents of NBC at the time, who later became president of NBC, Warren Littlefield, saw. They were doing some sort of promo for their season, and they had two older actresses doing like this bit calling it Miami Nice about being like old people and living in Miami. And he was so tickled by it that he was like, we should see if there's legs here, and went to the creator's husband actually and was like, hey, will you write us a script?
Well, because they were producing partners, I want to say. They had like
she
a
hadn't been a producing
together.
partner at that point yet, I don't believe. And they went to him and he's like, I don't think I can write this, but I think that my wife could. She just had, because she was like sort of semi-retired, she'd just come off of soap, and she was like, I'll give it a crack. But yeah, it was originally written as supposed to be for Jewish women, but then the network note was no one wants to watch for old Jewish women.
Which, it's funny because I do not believe we're going to be talking. Actually, I think the director of The Middlest might not be Jewish, but other than that, every below the line person we're going to be talking about is Jewish.
Yep, it's a real TV Jew situation over here.
But instead they did, I didn't know this about Golden Girls. I knew it was like a group of 4 older women. I didn't know they were living together. I just thought they were like friends. But there's also the element of like, it's like mismatch roommates, because we have like 2 New York City Italians. We have like a Southern belle, and then we have kind of like a cheery Midwesterner. And so there's also that element of these like mismatched backgrounds all having to live together.
Yes. And forming just the strongest friendship despite being very fucking mean to each other.
Yeah, a lot of the show, I mean, and behind the scenes, as we'll get to.
We'll get to.
A lot of the show is them like really insulting each other.
Yeah.
Often fat jokes, just calling each other fat in all sorts of ways.
And early on, there was a lot of jokes made about Bea Arthur's appearance. And eventually she was like, you got to stop with this shit.
Because it's like, you always think about that when there's like jokes about a character's appearance of like, that's just what that person looks like. Like that's the body they live in when they're not at work. So yeah.
Christopher Lloyd commented about it afterwards. Christopher Lloyd was one of the writers on the show and then would go on to create Modern Family and sort of be a huge force in TV in the 2010s and still today. But he was a writer on that show. It was his first show, sort of where he cut his teeth, and he was like, yeah, we had to stop doing that. It wasn't right to do that.
Well, speaking of what's not right, let's get to the worst episode.
The worst episode is season 2, episode 26, Empty Nests, which is a backdoor pilot for the show that would become Empty Nest, which is just the TV show Empty Nest is really the only thing they took is that they are neighbors with the Golden Girls, and everything else is sort of completely different in what would become Empty Nest, the TV show that we know.
There was also the quirky neighbor.
Quirky neighbor made the cut, yes.
Who carried over pretty much unchanged. But yeah, everything about the premise in the cast, because this episode, I think, went down so badly, they just completely started over.
Yeah, it was bad. This episode was bad. Basically, the premise of this is that their neighbor, played by Rita Moreno, comes over and they're chatting and she's like, I'm really bored. I'm really sad. My kids went off to college. My husband works all the time. I'm lonely and sad. And so the advice of the Golden Girls are like, hey, maybe talk to your husband. And the dramatic tension is that she feels like she can't talk to her husband. She gets like really nervous about it, like having the conversation with him. Eventually she does have the conversation with him of the like, you should work less, but that doesn't actually pan out. And then the daughter comes home from college because she broke up with her boyfriend who she followed to college, but then is encouraged to go back to college. So the Rita Moreno character takes her back to college and spends a long time in New York with her. And this makes the husband character miss her and then go visit her in New York. And they sort of rekindle. He decides that he's going to have less hours. And move his practice into their house.
Yeah, you can kind of see the premise start to shape there. The original premise was clearly like an empty nest couple, and he has moved his doctor's office into the house, was going to be the original premise of the sitcom. What it ended up being was being about a older man whose wife dies, and so his 2 adult daughters move in with him.
Yes, and he's a pediatrician, and that's really what was taken. Yeah, none of the cast stayed the same except for the quirky neighbor,
who was the biggest celebrity because he was, oh God, what's the name of that character? Joe Isuzu, I think. He was like he had a commercial character that was sort of, Flo from, where is Flo from? Progressive. I couldn't remember whether State Farm or Progressive. He was like that level famous for commercials, and so he was like the big star. So they more or less kept him completely the same, even though, boy, I didn't like his performance, and he is definitely not, I think, super remembered as an actor, that guy.
Yes. So this episode was not all that entertaining to watch because, I mean, it didn't really feel like an episode of Golden Girls. The Golden Girls didn't even get really a B plot, unless I'm misremembering. I don't think they had anything else going on.
No, there was kind of the opening scene, and then they come in about halfway through the episode to have another scene in Rita Moreno's house. But yeah, they were definitely side players, which definitely, I think there was some tension behind the scenes because the Golden Girls cast was pissed off about this episode where they were kind of getting sidelined.
Yeah.
So I think they were not great to work with during this episode. It just kind of sounds like behind the scenes this went really badly. There was a lot of rewrites needed, but Susan Harris got really sick and so was unable to be involved. So there was just like a bunch of different writers trying to fix this thing to the point where Rita Moreno has talked about she hates this episode and it was a terrible experience to work on. And one of the things is she's like, it was rewritten so many times that I couldn't remember what the current line was. Just like everything had been changed so much.
Yeah. I mean, as far as success as a backdoor pilot goes, it's incredibly successful, right? Empty Nest went on to become a show with lots of episodes. I think that I'd have to look, but it's over 100 episodes.
Oh, yeah. Empty Nest was a success, although you have to wonder if it had anything to do with this episode.
It did, though, because they realized from watching this episode that it wasn't fucking working.
Yeah, that's true. They fixed the premise.
And being able to see that from the, like, this is not something that's done in TV anymore, really, is like experimentation. And I think with 26 episodes a season, you have more bandwidth to experiment, but we really don't see backdoor pilots anymore. So, but it was an experiment. Then they collected the data from that experiment and went on to make a show that actually was successful. So I would say, yes, it's a successful backdoor pilot. Is it a good episode of television? Absolutely not. Especially it's not a good episode it's not an episode of the Golden Girls, really, even. It is this other third thing, this like Rita Moreno struggle fest.
She's trying her best, guys.
Yeah.
She's really, she's given so little to work with, and
Yeah.
she's really trying.
Mm-hmm. She does get a banger of a line, though. Or like, at least we had talked about this. She's in the first scene with the Golden Girls. She's so lonely that she's calling into radio stations in the middle of the night. And apparently she calls into a radio station and suggests, and then this is in 1986. Her plan for peace in the Middle East was to give Greenland to Palestine.
Yeah, let the Palestinians live in Greenland, which definitely felt a little like, ooh, okay.
Yeah. It feels a little bit like, I don't know, it's all just still 1986 over here, and people...
Well, certainly, I mean, we have a president who...
mentally is locked in the 80s.
Yeah, his brain stopped taking in new information in 1986. So
it's possible. It's possible that he has a plan. That his plan for Greenland is to give it to the Palestinians.
He watched this episode, and it just kind of slammed into one of his few brain cells. We did say we were incorrect. There was two things that carried over: the quirky neighbor, and then also the set.
Uh-huh.
They kept the set completely the same. I guess once you build a big house set, there's just no reason to change that.
And it's nice.
Yeah, it was a nice little house set. Yeah, I mean, it is, I think... I didn't hate watching this one the way I've really not enjoyed watching some of the worst ones. It was fine, I thought, as an episode of television. And mostly it was kind of interesting to watch that creative process, to watch, like, a bunch of stuff not work that would later get fixed and work really well.
Yeah.
And so getting to see that happen in retrospect was pretty interesting.
It's interesting to watch it from an academic standpoint. From an academic standpoint, from an entertainment standpoint, it's a not. Other than like the Schadenfreude.
It was also a weird first one to watch, not just because they're not in it much, but also because their characters don't do much that involve their characters. So I got almost no sense of who the four people were.
Yeah.
Because they just were kind of giving advice to Rita Moreno. And so it wasn't until the next episode that I started to get a sense of like, oh, okay, here's what all four of these people are like. I feel like you could have had everyone exchange lines, and this episode would have gone pretty much the same. Since it is the worst, do you want to get to the controversy that we've been having fun talking about this morning?
Yes, the controversy we've been having fun talking about this morning. So we can talk a little bit about the casting for this. Again, all of these actresses were working actresses at the time. A lot of them had been working in TV a ton. Betty White had worked in TV a ton. She was on the Mary Tyler Moore Show. She was like the game show queen. Rue McClanahan had worked on Maude with B. Arthur. And they had just been working in TV all their lives. And they set out to cast a B. Arthur type for the role of Dorothy. And they read Elaine Stritch for it, and it didn't go great. And B. Arthur's agent kind of got wind that they were looking for a B. Arthur type. And they're like, what do you want B to take a look? Like, they didn't think she'd say yes. So she took a look at the script and was like, I really like this script, but I don't want to just have this be a revisitation of my character from Maude, Rue's character from Maude, meeting, the character from the Mary Tyler Moore Show, which was Betty White's character. She was sort of like a Blanche type character. She was like frisky and flirty and slutty. And Rue McClanahan's character on Maude was like kind of ditzy and simple, like Rose's character. And they were like, no, Betty, we're going to switch them. So Rue will play the slut and Betty will play the bimbo. And so B. Arthur was like, okay, I'm in. I'll give it a crack.
It sounds like Rue and Betty were also in on that for similar reasons of not having to repeat themselves.
Yes.
I don't think they minded.
Yeah, so they form this ensemble. They bring in Estelle Getty, who is 1 year younger than Betty White, to play a woman 20 years her senior. But they use things like acting and makeup and wigs.
Yeah.
To cast.
Betty White, B. Arthur are the same age, 63.
When
Estelle
they started.
Getty,
Yeah, Estelle Getty was
62, and then Rue was
in her like early 50s. Yeah,
I want to say late 50s.
Late 50s.
She wasn't that much younger.
Which is just so interesting now to think of these women as old.
Yeah. Well, part of it,
like the retirement class, whereas like people in their 50s and 60s in this country no longer can retire. So.
Yeah, it's true. Everyone is still, other than my mom that got a like public education contract back when those contracts were good and was sort of grandfathered in, and so got actual retirement. Very few people can retire before like 80 anymore.
Yeah. There's also like a lot of life left too, ideally.
Yeah.
So anyway, they formed this ensemble. There's great chemistry among this ensemble. Absolutely. It's I looked into this and I could look deeper probably. This is like a 4-woman show. I think this is I don't know that this is the first 4-woman show, but there are a lot of 4-woman shows that go on after this, using similar archetypes of these characters going forward. You got your Sex in the City. You have girls.
Okay, wait. Match everyone to their Sex in the City counterpart.
So Carrie's going to be Dorothy.
Okay.
Because it's like sort of our main. Although, no, I think Miranda's kind of more of the Dorothy character.
But no, Miranda's Blanche, obviously.
No.
No?
Blanche is the slut. The slut is going to be the Kim Cattrall character. It's going to be Samantha.
Is that not Miranda? Okay, I don't know any of their names. This is
Why
my
are you
confusion.
making me do this? You don't know who these people are. Yeah, I could see that Blanche would be like, I think they all like sort of take pieces of it, but the most Blanchy one is Samantha. The most, yeah.
And
it's
then
like, or maybe, yeah.
The kind of rich, not bright one sort of maps a little bit to Betty White.
Yes. But it is hard because there's that like big age gap with the Estelle Getty character with Sophia. So
the hardest one is obviously Estelle Getty. There's not a huge.
So it's a 4-woman show, which I think has become this thing now and standing on the shoulders of it. I mean, there was no like an immediate sort of take on it of Designing Women, which came out a few years later as like sort of was it ABC or CBS? I don't remember. Their answer to Golden Girls was Designing Women. Anyway, back to the controversy. So they formed this ensemble, and B. Arthur and Betty White, very different stylistically. Betty White is like TV's has been in front of a TV camera. In front of a TV camera her whole freaking life, her whole adult life. Whereas B. Arthur came from the theater and I think considered herself a little bit more of an acteur. A little bit took the profession a lot more seriously than Betty White, who very much comedic actress, very much how to juice up a live audience. And so there was that friction there. And B. Arthur was just kind of really fucking mean to her. The B. Arthur's son, I think, commented, was like, my mom always sort of had to have a nemesis, and she picked Betty White. I found multiple sources of stories where B. Arthur would regularly call Betty White a cunt. Which I found just delightful.
When you told me that, I'm like, oh, maybe it was like a one-off situation. But no, it sounds like it was just a regular basis. That's how she referred to Betty White.
Posted an article after the 40th anniversary of Golden Girls, where it interviewed some of the producers and writers, and there were multiple corroborations of B. Arthur calling Betty White a cunt, or at least referring to her as a cunt. I don't know if she called her a cunt to her face, but she definitely would be like, in talking about her to other people, would be like, that cunt.
Yeah, I mean, the explanation I saw from one person of why they didn't like each other was the stylistic of like, B. Arthur wanted to do it Broadway style. She wanted to do what the script said, do it right, do it the first time, do as few takes as possible. Whereas Betty White really liked just like improving stuff or trying a new thing or just kind of, because she understood that they had takes. And so that, let's just try this line a different way and see. I don't know, though, that would be enough for B. Arthur to regularly call her cunt. I feel like there had to have been some behind the scenes stuff as well.
Yeah, well, given time, we can all do a deep dive. The other sort of controversy on this was Estelle Getty. Later in the show, they describe it as developing like intense stage fright and having a lot of trouble with her lines because of that stage fright. Rue McClanahan would say that she would just freeze up and she would get so incredibly nervous the days before shooting that she would describe it as like a black cloud descending over her. They had hired people to help her work on her lines. They were writing her lines on pieces of set. The purse that she always carried had her lines written on it. They had cue cards for her. So she would just like freeze up on set and lose it a lot. I think this is my hunch as a performer. I don't think stage fright is something you develop late in your career without the impetus of something sort of going wrong. Estelle Getty was later diagnosed with Lewy body dementia, and ultimately she was I think it was part of the complications of her death was the Lewy body dementia.
That is, her Wikipedia says she died of that, is how they phrase
So
it.
I think maybe what was starting to happen is that she was having early symptoms of that disease and having the inability to learn her lines, which caused her to sort of spiral about this and cause the anxiety on set.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. If you're an experienced performer and suddenly you can't do one of the most basic tools of your trade, remember lines, that's going to really throw you off. Like, that's really going to make you start doubting some stuff.
Yeah. With hindsight being 2020, I don't think it was, classical stage fright. I think it was that she was having a medical issue, having symptoms of that, and which was causing a lot of distress to her while working.
Well, controversies over. Let us get to the Jews that made this episode. It was written by the show's creator, Susan Harris, who was born Susan Spivak. She was born in Westchester. It doesn't say, but I'm going to assume a wealthy family because it's Westchester. She got her start in TV. She got her start in TV kind of late, I feel like, for TV writers, and that she got her start at the age of 30 with a show called Then Came Bronson, which was about a disillusioned reporter who quits his job and wanders America on his Harley Davidson. It only lasted one season, thank God. She wrote on All in the Family. She wrote on Maude. Her first show she created was called Faye. It was about a divorced woman in her 40s trying to get back into dating. It only lasted 10 episodes, but I do think it shows like her interest in telling stories about women who are, in TV terms, older. At the age of 37, she created Soap, which was a parody of soap operas, and it ran for 88 episodes and led to an even more successful spin-off, Benson, which ran for 158. In all, she created 11 sitcoms in her career, which is very impressive, of which 5 were a success. 6 ended in their first seasons. But, again, even...
Great average.
Great average. And her son is a successful podcaster, Sam Harris. So she's related to podcasting.
Mm-hmm.
I know this episode was directed by Jay Sandrich. His dad was a successful Hollywood director, and he got his start as an assistant director in the 50s. He worked as an assistant director on I Love Lucy and The Dick Van Dyke Show. Then he got promoted to full director in the early 60s and went on to work on every sitcom you've ever heard of. That was his job, was just full sitcom director. His last credit is an episode of 2.5 Men at the age of 71. After he retired, he moved to Aspen and started directing regional theater there.
Oh.
And then he died in 2021. So a life lived, Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts on the worst episode of The Golden Girls?
I have no other thoughts on the worst episode of The Golden Girls.
All right, let's hear some ads and we'll come back with our intermission.
This episode is brought to you by Accenture. When your advertising operations fall out of sync, everything else follows. Spotify and Accenture are working together to reinvent the rhythm of ad sales, using automation, analytics, and smarter workflows to simplify campaign delivery and access better data across the business. The result? Less time spent on operations, more time connecting brands with the moments and fandoms that matter most. Learn more at Accenture.com/Spotify.
And this is our intermission, which is how is that theme song?
I mean, I just sang a rousing rendition of it to our dog, where I changed the words "thank you for being from "thank you for being a friend" to "thank you for being our dog." So I would say it's catchy.
Yeah, it has that Cheers vibe of like kind of light, catchy pop song. definitely sticks in your head. This was not written for the Golden Girls. It was a song by a singer-songwriter named Andrew Gold, which he released in 1978. He didn't love it. He called it a little throwaway thing that took me about an hour to write. The version on the show was recorded by Cynthia Fee, who was like a session and backup singer, kind of her whole career. She or someone close to her wrote her own Wikipedia page. There's a lot of like, when she appears in public, people often want to come up and talk to her. I'm like, no one else would put that in your Wikipedia, Cynthia.
She performs the crap out of it. I love this song.
Yeah. I do feel like she's doing a little bit of why am I blanking? Tapestry.
Carole King.
She's doing a little bit of a Carole King to me here. Just both in arrangement and the way she's singing. I don't have nostalgia for this song. It is definitely catchy. I think I would put it at a 7 or an 8, somewhere in there.
I'm at a 9.5. It's at Cheers level for me. Like almost at Cheers level for me.
Yeah. I mean, I can see that. They're very similar kinds of theme songs. Cheers, I think, for me, is just a little more successful at like telling the story. All right, let us get to the best episode of The Golden Girls, which is
Season 3, Episode 1, Old Friends.
So after the rules we gave, we did the worst is a season finale and the best is a season premiere. Those things matter a lot less in sitcoms, though.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not chasing a cliffhanger here.
Yeah, both of these have no indication that they are the beginning or the end of a season.
So this episode, there's 2 plots. We have 2 plots here. The Estelle Getty plot is that she goes to the beach every day to hang out, where she befriends a man, and they have like a friendship, but it's like sort of coded as a little bit of a relationship, where they sit and watch people they do some people watching together. They share food, and one day he's late, and she's sort of like, "Hey, did you get on the wrong bus or something?" And he it's like freaks out on her, and so she goes home and tells Dorothy about it. And the next day she comes back and he's there and he's better. He doesn't seem to like remember the fight that they had. And Dorothy is like sort of off in the background watching. And there's another woman who's off in the background watching. And it's Dorothy and this other woman discover that the other woman is the man's daughter. And then obviously she is Sophia's daughter. And they talk a little bit about what's going on there with their their parents' relationship. And then it's revealed later, Dorothy talks to Sophia about it, that this man, Alvin, has dementia and is going to be moving soon because he can no longer be living the way that he is and he needs to move to get the treatment that he needs. So it's like kind of a very special episode about...
Oh, it's definitely a very special episode.
About issues of aging and what it's like from that perspective of people seeing their friends as they age, seeing their friends get sick. And And
then there's a B plot.
There's a B plot, which is very fucking silly.
And it stars. It's very funny. If you go to like IMDb reviews, no one clocked this. I didn't clock this, but you instantly saw who it was.
Clocked it. So there's a guest star in this that is instantly clockable to me. So this B plot is they're having some sort of garage rummage sale to benefit charity of sorts. And so they're like getting things together. Rue McClanahan's getting things together. And the Girl Scout comes over to pick up a few things from Rose's room. And Blanche tells the Girl Scout that they've been set aside, just grab it and go. So she goes into Rose's room, grabs the pile of stuff, on top of which is a teddy bear. And the little girl's like, "This teddy bear is so special. I really love it and want it." And Rue McClanahan's like, "Why don't you just take it? You don't need to bring it to the rummage sale. It's fine. She wants to give it away anyway. Just take the teddy bear." And the little girl is like so stoked about it. The little girl, of course, is front woman of the band Rilo Kiley, Jenny Lewis.
It is Jenny Lewis in one of her first acting roles. She did a series of kind of one-offs in sitcoms at this age.
Yes.
She's probably 12?
Yeah, very young. A very young Jenny Lewis there. And who has a large part in this episode because it is later revealed that Rose did not intend to give that bear away. It's a bear that she has had since childhood, who she is very, very emotionally attached to. So there is this some dramatic tension there. Blanche kind of tells Rose to go look for it, even though Blanche knows where it is. And then Blanche tries to dupe her with another bear, and she's like, "This isn't my bear." And then Blanche is like, tries to get it back from Jenny Lewis, but Jenny Lewis turns out is a monster and is holding the bear hostage. Has even cut the ear off the bear, and is trying to get Blanche. And then Dorothy gets roped into this.
Which was apparently a reference to one of the Gettys got kidnapped, of the L.A. Getty family, and to prove it, the kidnappers cut off his ear and sent it to them. So it was a kind of direct reference to that.
Yeah. So that's happening. So the Jenny Lewis is sort of extorting them for a 10-speed bike. And then it turns out that she actually just wants cash. Rose gets brought into the mix here, and she's like, "We're going to get that back." So Rose does like a little bait and switch on her where she's like, "Listen, you can keep it. I understand it's an important lesson for me to learn, yada, yada, yada." And as she's like doing her spiel, she opens the door, shoves Jenny Lewis out of it, and grabs the bear from her and slams the door.
Well, specifically, she does this whole thing leading up to, you got to learn some stuff. You got to learn to accept things. For instance, her last bit is, you have to learn that life isn't fair, and then shoves her out the door. It's a nice moment.
So that's what's going on there. It's a very special episode.
It's a very special episode. I don't know if that's 100% why it's the best. I think it's two things, which is Jenny Lewis delivers a fun performance. Even if you don't know it's Jenny Lewis, she's fun to watch. But the most important thing is that Joe Seneca, who played the guy Alvin, he and Estelle Getty, I just think, have really nice chemistry.
Yeah.
It's a very special episode, but it doesn't feel that heavy because they're fun to watch together. They bounce off each other well. Mm-hmm. Joe Seneca, who was about the same age as Estelle Getty, they were both kind of in their mid to late 60s at that point, playing
people in their 80s. Yeah. And they were very funny. It's great lines. They share a veal and pepper sandwich.
There's some great Italian stuff. This is when I learned that they were supposed to be Italian, because again, very little was given about their characters in the worst one. The veal and pepper sandwich, classic. And then also Dorothy plays a very classic Italian-American card you've talked about receiving in your childhood, of being threatened with a man. So she threatens Jenny Lewis's character with the man who's going to come and take her away. Were you an Italian-American child if you weren't threatened with the man?
We were the man. The man's going to come. And yes, I have threatened our daughter with the man.
You didn't threaten that the man would take her away.
It would take the dog away.
You did threaten when she was not being gentle with the dog. You said the man would come and take the dog away.
Which is not untrue. If you're not gentle, if you are extremely ungentle with a dog, a man will come and take your dog away. So
it's not necessarily the man, but this is the one where I made the note, and it's just a general note for the series. And we talked a bit about this, of they're not old, but they all have the old lady hair. They have the hair that both of my grandmothers had.
They have the helmet hat, the wash and set.
Yeah, you just go to the hairdresser once a week.
And you get washed and you get set in rollers. You go under the dryer, and then they pop you out, tease you, and then Aquanet you to shit, and you're off on your way for the week.
I got to know when that started, because it just is such a women of that age at that time all had the same helmet hair.
Yeah.
And it's so instantly in my head classifies them as old just because they look like my grandma with that hair.
Yeah. Speaking a bit about their appearance, I love the costume design on the show. I think it's exceptional. The characters are given costumes that show their character, and they're beautifully made and they fit them well. And they are constantly just in things that are really flattering and beautiful and of a time. So
yeah, you at one point were like, I want everything that they're wearing on screen right now.
It's true. I did, and I do.
My last note is just, and I honestly don't remember what they are, but there definitely were some racist jokes in this episode.
Yes, because the man is a black man. The older man with the dementia is a black man. And I think it's one of the first things Estelle Sophia says to. So he's like, "You're black."
Oh, that's right. No, it's Estelle Getty brings up the idea that black men have bigger penises. There's a whole series of jokes about that.
Yes.
Some classic racism.
Yeah.
This episode was written by Terry Grossman and Kathy Spear, who were writing partners. They got their start on Angie, which was a 1970 sitcom, speaking of which, about a middle-class Italian-American who marries a rich wasp. They were the head writers of The Golden Girls for the first 4 seasons, because Susan Harris was not actually that involved in the production. They went on to create The Mommies in 1993, which was a sitcom about suburban moms that lasted 2 seasons. And their last credit was on Whoopi Goldberg's one-season sitcom in 2004, although they are also credited, as a number of the writers are, on the Greek, Spanish, and Russian adaptations of The Golden Girls. There was a number of the same thing happened with The Office, I remember, of just like translating and then refilming scripts of a sitcom in the languages with actors from that country. I don't know if that's happened much since The Office. I wonder if The Office was kind of the last one. But I remember there was probably like at least 6 or 7 international versions of The Office.
Yeah, lots of international versions. This is syndicated, had started in syndication pretty soon after it began, was syndicated across many different networks, and it is syndicated across the world to this day. This day, it's currently still on the Hallmark Channel, which is quite a legacy for a show that's 40 years old.
I realized I forgot to say it was directed by our secretary of the episode, and possibly the only Jew in this entire behind the scenes we're going to be talking about, or the only non-Jew, Terry Hughes. He was British. He got to start working for the BBC in the 60s. He directed the filmed version of the original Broadway cast of Sweeney Todd, and then directed all the way through to 2020, ending with the Matt LeBlanc sitcom Man with a Plan, which is a very late entry in the classic comedy premise of, what if a man had to take care of a child? Can you even imagine?
He directed a ton of The Golden Girls. Most of The Golden Girls are directed by this Terry.
Yeah, I mean, all the directors we're talking about here are just people who worked just constantly directing, specifically sitcoms. They were all just professional sitcom directors. Any other thoughts on this, the best of The Golden Girls?
I have no other thoughts.
Just about anything.
I mean, it was a rating success. It was one of the shows that is like, again, it's the like fertilizer of must-see TV. So it's, like sort of those early days of the Brandon Tartikoff revival of NBC that turns into the Warren Littlefield era of must-see TV. I will talk a little bit about the awards for the Golden Girls as we do. The show received 68 Emmy nominations with 11 wins.
I want to say Estelle Getty was nominated for this episode, or possibly won.
She possibly won. All of the lead actresses on the show eventually walk with an Emmy for either Best Lead or Best Supporting. So, yeah, which is very rare among large cast. I think Will and Grace did it. I think Schitt's Creek did it. I'm trying to think if there's any other ones, but again, it's pretty rare.
Friends.
And they didn't. All 6 of them did not walk with a Emmy, I don't believe.
Well, coming back to The Golden Girls after a bit of time away since you were a child, how'd you feel about it?
The type of humor that I think was funny then and I thought was funny as a child, I don't think it's funny now. There's a lot of bullying. There's a lot of fatphobic jokes. There's like some racist jokes. It really is just like it's of its time in the sense that was like, that's what's funny. So let's make these jokes about that. I didn't see any of those jokes subverted in any way. So coming back and watching it now, it's like, I really I'm enjoying the performances. I'm enjoying the costumes. But yeah, the humor is like, from an empathetic standpoint where I care about these characters, I'm like, you guys are so mean to each other. You're so mean to Rose. This is like not great. And like, I can see why when there's this sort of television is on TV and is funny, why there was so much bullying in the educational spaces that I inhabited as when the show was on. And when shows like this were on, like there's just the butt of the joke is always just to bully someone. Whereas that's not where we are at culturally now, I hope. I don't think based on the TV we're watching now.
I do think I've read at least that bullying is not like gone, but just is at a level that is so low that it would seem bizarre to us having been raised in the era of a lot of bullying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have... I was going to say, I feel like I agree. I don't love it when characters are mean to each other. I never love that. Even in like the podcast Reply All, towards the end, they started to do this dynamic where they were kind of constantly insulting each other. And I find that dynamic very uncomfortable to listen to. The only way it works is something like Succession, where you hate everyone.
Yes.
And so then it's fine that they're being mean to each other because all of them deserve it.
And also, like, this thing, it's like the Golden Girls. This is a show about best friends. It's a show about people who are so incredibly close and there for each other, and they're so cruel to one another. Whereas, like, a show like Succession, they all hate each other. They're there because they are related and they are all after the same bag. Like, that is why they are all there.
They're all trying to get the kiss from daddy.
Yes. But in this, like, we're supposed to believe that this is a friendship, or this is a legendary like friendship, but your friends, guys, if your friends treat you like this, they're not your friends.
Yeah. Other than that, I didn't come in with a ton of expectations, so I can't say I was like disappointed. I totally got and enjoyed the dynamic between the performers. They're like 4 very good performers. They have nice chemistry with each other. But I would say, to me, coming in, the scripts felt very sitcom standard. It just felt like kind of any other sitcom of the era. I feel like you could interchange most of these jokes with any number of other sitcoms and it would fit in just fine. They were just a lot of like bog standard sitcom jokes, which work fine. They're not like bad jokes except for the ones that are like fatphobic or racist. They function fine as jokes. They're just not that interesting. Well, would we keep watching it?
I wouldn't turn it off if it was on in the background of my life. I can't say that I would seek it out.
Yeah, if you wanted to put this on, like, in a time where, I don't know, we're mostly on our phones, but the TV's on, or we're falling asleep, I wouldn't be opposed to that. I don't have a ton of interest in watching more of this show. I'm not, like, dying to know what else happens to these people.
Yeah, I absolutely honor its place in our culture and our history.
Yeah, I mean, it's always great, any show that lets women tell stories, and then especially women who are older than 40, which is by TV standards ancient, lets them get to be the lead and get to have like love lives and fool lives and, you know, problems and change. And it's all stuff that elevates what is in other ways just, as I said, a completely standard sitcom. Well,
these old white women.
Our next show, we're going to be doing another RIP memorial show after All in the Family. We're going to be doing Dawson's Creek, a show that, again, I have not seen a single second of. I'm like very aware of its cultural footprint at the time. For one thing, I got like a lot of like kids entertainment magazines, and so there was definitely like spreads about Dawson's Creek, but I never watched it. I can't say I'm hopeful it's going to hold up, to be honest.
Yeah. I watched that Creek. I watched that Creek a lot. I watched it when it was on. I watched it in reruns.
Yeah. How do you think it's going to hold up?
No, I do not.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Check out our Patreon only show, The Middleist, where we will be discussing the exact Middleist rated episode to see what the show looks like when everything is exactly average. And that episode is season 1, episode 20, Adult Education, in which Blanche is sexually harassed.
If you threw a party and invited everyone you knew, you would see the biggest gift would be from me, and the card attached would say, "Thank you for being a cunt."
Bye, everyone.